You are already on the path of awakening. It's time to transition from a life of struggle to a life of play. It's time to discover your autonomy, agency, sovereignty, and potency. Welcome to Reveal the Game of Life. Hey everyone, welcome back to Reveal the Game of Life. We have made it to season 2. So glad that you're listening to this episode. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host. I'm here with your other host,
Chris Tomaso.
Bow, 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 bow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done that. So we had a hiatus. We had some life happening in 2022, and we took a break from production. So first off, we wanted to say hi, welcome back. Thanks for your patience. If you've been a serious listener of the show and you haven't heard from us in a while, sorry that we dipped out and didn't really say what was happening, but we are back now, and the show is going to be happening at a different pace than it was happening at before. And there are reasons for that we will describe. But first off, we just want to say welcome back. And again, as always, we're really, really grateful to have this space and this platform to get to share what we're thinking about, what we're up to, what we're revealing and discovering about life, and to get to share that with you all and know that, when we get feedback from you, we're really excited about it. We love hearing how the show is landing, but most of all, it's just really fun to have a place to dig into what we're processing, what we're unpacking, and hopefully y'all get something out of it if you're listening to this episode. Maybe you do because you've been around for a while. But yeah, Chris, you had an amazing adventure. That was part of why we decided to take a pause. So tell us what you've been up to this past year.
Well, thanks. To summarize, it's been almost like an entire 2022 is like the year of the greatest expansion of my life. Hit some major goals, bought a new car. I made more money than I've ever made before. I traveled for 6 months out of the year. I began the year in Hawaii. I moved to Europe, lived in Europe for like 3 months, traveled around there, then went on a road trip across the US. And now I am wintering in Ohio, of all places. So it's like the most extreme difference between Hawaii to Ohio, all the while learning, having a constant experience about what was serving me and what wasn't, and having all these deep takeaways that I am now getting to process. If you've ever been in an experience where things were just happening all the time, you don't really have time to process. And so I'm deeply grateful for this time. And I want to say that while the show has been on hiatus, both of us have been up leveling to such a degree that it would be criminal not to keep the show going because of all of the insights we have to share. So that's something that I'm just really excited about. If you really liked the show before, the level of depth and understanding that we are coming to on our own spiritual journey that we are sharing is on another level. One of the big things I did this year is I started working for the Royal Shaman as an integration guide. Probably mentioned it before. It's informed a lot of the things I've talked about in previous episodes about identity and relational work. And that I've had constant access to just really powerful people and serving them in deeper and deeper ways. One of the things that, as you know, I'm obsessed with story. One of the things that I have been doing all the time is recognizing where stories serving people and where aren't they, and helping people rewrite the stories or let go of the stories that aren't serving them and letting new ones emerge instead of needing to write them. So that's just a sample of what's been going on. For you, Molly, I'm curious, what's your experiential expansion been like?
Yeah, I mean, so much. I ended in the last year a relationship that really wasn't that supportive for my being. The thing that I know about me when I go through breakups or heartache is I radically expand and evolve through that. So I'm in a place of more deep appreciation and acknowledgement of myself than I ever have been before, starting to really claim, own, and acknowledge the power of me and the impact that I have in people's lives in a way that I think I didn't quite believe it, or I maybe doubted it more, or even just didn't quite love myself this fully before in my life, which is a beautiful thing to acknowledge and a beautiful thing to experience. It's something I definitely wish for everyone. I still I'm traveling. I'm because of that relationship ending, I've been back on the road full time this past year. So all over the country. all over, all kinds of different places. And, I published 2 books. My nonfiction book I released last January. I published my fiction novel that I wrote in my 20s in the spring. I launched 4 programs, created 2 new programs this past year. So business-wise, I've been creating anew and, recreating old things so that they work better and support people more fully too. So lots of amazing stuff is happening. And, now I'm releasing group hypnosis sessions, which when I started my business, I was a hypnotherapist. So it's kind of returning to my roots, but bringing a lot of new magic in there with it. And yeah, really excited about all that. Also working on the land project. So putting plans in place to actually purchase land and build the retreat center dream that probably a lot of people out there share that dream with me, but actually putting pieces of that puzzle in place so that can happen sooner. So lots of exciting things, lots of like choosing bigger dreams and putting things out into the world that I'm really excited to get to create and get to share with people. Yeah. And I just know so much more magic is yet to come. And one of my favorite things about having this show is, of course, getting to talk to Chris and unpack really big ideas with you, but also having this kind of checkpoint where we look at what are we thinking about, what are we actually practicing, what are we putting in place, and how are our lives sort of showing us the results of those choices, those actions, those awarenesses in practice. So yeah, I'm really happy to be back here having these conversations, especially from the places that we're at in our lives now. And I know 2022 is probably a wild and eventful year for everyone. And yeah, there's so much to continue revealing and unpacking and discovering about our lives now that, yeah, it's exciting to have the show back on the air.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to just speak to that for a second. Like, why now? Why are we? And we'll get into why, because it's really important that we sort of walk our talk. Like, it's not like what you were saying is it's not just about talking about this stuff. It's like, what are we practicing and what kinds of downloads are happening from that, and sharing that as authentically as possible. It's definitely the opposite of like, here's the way to live and here's all the rules. It's like we're discovering that as we go, which is why it's called Reveal, the game of life. Take a drink, eggnog or whatever you're drinking. Why now? I believe that this expansion of humanity is imminent. It is happening. I see it in all of these places, but in a collective sense, there is so much disruption happening in the worlds of technology and in all of these different aspects of society. It is now, if you are any kind of tapped into the energetics, it is now undeniable. Like, it is happening. And it's essential for people who have any kind of clarity, even if just in their own perspective, to share it now. Because this might be a very terrifying time for a lot of people. And I am privileged to not be terrified, or at least terrified. Fear is only one thing I experience. I have a lot of belief and certainty and vision about a potentially like beautiful world that is to come. And it's now time to not keep that stuff like inside, because it might be too weird or too woo woo or too scary, like too scary to reveal to other people. And so this is the practice of that. This is just one way in which it's important to make this normal, to
Yeah.
normalize sharing these kinds of things. The kinds of communities that I work in, where we talk about spiritual stuff, a lot of the people say, and people who've listened to this podcast tell us, this is like, you guys are talking about stuff that I can't talk about anyone else with. So it's clear that there's still, it feels like it's in pockets. And I want this to be something that goes mainstream because it's so important. Not just this podcast, but this type of conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially focused on possibilities, expansion, how to
Questioning.
maximize our potential, how to
Mhm.
transcend the stuff that's been limiting us or stopping us or making us not believe in what's possible. Yeah. And
Yeah.
hope for what looks like a downward spiral of our culture and society, and which it may be that, but the end of
Right.
humanity could actually be the beginning of something else epic.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to get down to like practical, because one of the things that is core to this show is like, we have these like big conversations, but then we also offer a piece of integration where you, if you're listening, can take this and like apply it in your own life and start to get your own kind of data intuitive downloads. Because this isn't what we are talking about, is the opposite of here's the rules, now follow them. It's about here's how to discover your own sets of rules and whatnot. And so take what's true for you and leave the rest. So the subject that came up for both of us independently is alignment. And I wanted to ask you, Molly, like, what is your relationship to alignment, and what do you feel like is essential to know about it?
Yeah, I mean, alignment is really, well, the post I just made about it this week, which is so funny because I posted about alignment, and independently of that, the same like hour, Chris texted me like, let's do one on alignment. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, did you just see my post about that, or was this you coming up? So, okay, this was the designed to happen apparently. But
Yes.
alignment is like the place where we can be sure. It's the place where we are not swinging on a pendulum of should I or shouldn't I, or yes or no, or judgment of good and bad and right and wrong. It's like a place in the center that is calm, that is peace, that is knowing, that is trust, that is easily something that can be acted upon, I think, because there's this
Mm,
place of knowing that this step forward is where I'm heading.
yeah.
That's sort of a gist of alignment. For me, I don't know if it's my human design, I don't know if it's my like Capricorn essence or something, but I have a hard time like even saying yes to plans with someone if I'm not a full aligned yes. I'll say I'll think
Hmm.
about it. I'll give them a true honest answer rather than a yeah, let's definitely do that if I don't feel 100% alignment with it. So I feel almost like I have this, maybe to a fault sometimes, commitment to that alignment, and I appreciate that about me, even though it may be hard for other people I'm around sometimes for me to not bandwagon jump until I'm a full body yes to something. But when I am a full body yes to something, I jump on it. I take action. I move forward with it. I chase it. I give time to it and I focus on it. And yeah, that is a huge gift to have that, I think, inner guidance system and that trust in my inner guidance system, because so far it mostly has really never led me astray. And that's the beauty of alignment, is even if shit hits the fan, if you're going through that thing from a place of alignment, you know that the other side of it is going to come out in your favor. And yeah, that's a gist on alignment. What about you?
Oh man, I have so many thoughts about it. But something that came up while you were talking is if somebody wants to be in alignment, the biggest fear is like, what is it? Well, I'll speak from my experience, which is, what if it's not, like, how do I know it's a full body yes? And what if I can only say yes to things that are full body yes, like what if I never say yes to anything? Or like what if everything in my life is not a full body yes? Or like I can't tell the difference? Because that internal guidance system, I know from practicing alignment, it gets easier, but in the beginning, it's like it can be very difficult to hear or feel what's in alignment, especially when it comes to like work, because so many people do work that they don't really want to do, but they justify it for whatever reason, and they have to be in survival. Of course, it's not a judgment. But when you look at, like, even when you're trying to design a career for yourself that really lights you up, it's hard to say like what actually lights you up.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
so
And
it's like
the
this
truth
kind of
is, there
trial and
might
error.
be a lot of things that are no's. Your sense of alignment might be a lot of no's at first, and that can be aligned. It can
Yeah.
be not this as an aligned knowing, rather
Yeah.
than definitely this
Mm,
being the only place of alignment,
mm.
you
I
know?
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it might take a lot of not thises in your life to get to a place where like, oh, this is the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would have a lot of judgment of myself over, no, I don't want to do that. Hey, do you want to do this? No. Hey, you want to do this?
Maybe not.
Not really. No. Like, and
Yeah.
because I want to be an agreeable person who wants to do things. So this identity of like, I should be a
Yeah, people
person
pleasing
who
is a
does these
huge
things.
part of it too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
absolutely.
that, I mean, people pleasing can also be known oftentimes as self abandonment, which is
Mhm.
basically misalignment.
Right. Exactly. What I love about alignment is that it's a very like simple concept, but it's broadly applicable to like all these different areas. So as I've been thinking about it, it's like there's like mental alignment, there's body alignment. So like body alignment's like getting in the correct posture that you feel good in, or walking through the world in a way that makes you feel good. Mental alignment is like where I find that like when I'm mentally aligned, that's when I enter that flow state where like I cease to exist and it's just me and the thing.
Mhm.
There's like emotional alignment, which is like letting emotions flow through you and not stopping them. And so there's like planetary alignment, depending on how much you're into astrology. But the more you get into alignment, the more you can line up all different aspects of your reality and the better it gets. Now, I've had the privilege of doing that because I haven't been working. So I haven't had all these misaligned things to show up. And when you're in a catalytic experience, like I've been in the 2022, this expansion, it sounded all good when you were listening to it before. Wow, you had a great year. Yes. And all that expansion showed me all the ways in which I was misaligned. So it was like I was experiencing all these amazing things, like being in Portugal and walking around, and then I would be misaligned with like the work I was doing. Or the amount of work for the amount of days, or the way I was moving my body, or the way I was thinking about things. And all of that stuff shows up when you take the invitation to expansion or you have an intention. Misalignment's the first thing you notice.
Right. Yeah, because you're magnifying everything as you expand. Everything's literally getting bigger. And so the things that are like off kilter, like, ooh, that's tipping over.
Yeah, exactly. And so that can be really stressful because you'll go through this process of like, is anything aligned? like, like, is everything a no? Do I just want to do nothing? And then there's a lot of like stories of like, well, I can't possibly get paid to do only the things I'm aligned with, right? Everyone has to do something they don't like. And those things are like mental misalignment, is the way I think of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, aligning those things through a lot of the things we talk about, like questions like, well, is it true that that's the case? Is it true for everyone? You know, like, who are you without that belief? There's a lot of ways in all of the different areas to work on misalignment, basically. So you got to become aware of it, right? And I find that awareness helps by actually swinging the pendulum a little bit. So a good example of that is like body misalignment. That's one that's kind of obvious for people. It's obvious. It's if you're just sitting, like if you're listening to this and you're sitting, you may not be aware of how aligned your body posture is. But if you were to say, like, scrunch your body down completely and then expand it all the way, now you can kind of you have more information about the spectrum where you're aligned, and you can like settle back into alignment. I realize that was maybe more helpful if you were looking at it on video, but
No, you described that
hopefully,
perfectly well.
okay,
Yeah.
great. I did a lot of visuals that
This is
made
why
sense at
people,
the time.
we do have these episodes on YouTube. If you're listening to the audio, you can join us
Whoop,
over there
whoop.
and see all the moves, the fancy dance moves that Chris is doing.
Yeah. So how do you find alignment, Molly? I'm
Yeah, I
curious.
mean, I feel like I am more aware of it the more, like you said, the more that I expand, the more that I'm aware of what alignment feels like, the sense of calm, the sense of trust, the sense of like knowing I'm going this direction. This is the path I choose to be on. That when something doesn't feel like that, it's blaringly obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sense of this feels right or this doesn't feel right, that inner GPS that Abraham Hicks always talks about,
Yeah.
that sense gets stronger the more that you choose the aligned path, the more that you honor your knowing, the more that you say, you know what, I can't do this job this way anymore. I have to choose something else. Then I was talking to somebody on a podcast yesterday about the moment where you're just fed up and you're like, this shit has to
Right.
change now.
Right.
And that is a place of like, okay, I'm choosing alignment. I'm
Right.
done with this feeling and I'm choosing something different and I'm willing to show up and do that. So like we were talking about back pain before we started this episode. If the back pain
Yeah.
gets bad enough, you're finally going to do something about it and
Right.
figure out a way to strengthen a part of your body or sit in a different way or get
Right.
a car that doesn't aggravate it, whatever the case may be, so that you can have that sense of alignment, which feels like non-abrasive to you.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you say like, and this is the way that most people grow, right? Is eventually misalignment gets too strong that you have to just surrender or let it go or whatever. This
Or
is
choose
talking about
something
like
different. Yeah.
the breakdown to break through concept. But the better you get at this, the less things have to be misaligned for you to say, no, this isn't serving me. And then you also develop that trust muscle. If you say no to some things, other more aligned things will show up. Like
Exactly.
for example, I'm not going to say tested, but a great example of this on a big scale is a couple of months ago. I was doing client work as a consultant, and I was misaligned, and I felt the misalignment deeply. And finally, it was very hard to do this. But I said, you know what? I need time off, and I don't know if I'm coming back. I just said that, and and they accepted it, and now I've done this reflection, and now they've offered me a role that's actually far more aligned. But they wouldn't have done that had I said no to the misalignment, and then I would have been holding myself out of misalignment
Or in
and
misalignment.
sad, upset, emotional. It would have been impacting other parts of life because misalignment is also like holographic. So if you're misaligned in one part of your life, it'll start to manifest in other parts.
Yeah.
And it's holographic. Oftentimes the solution is a lot of times we have mental misalignments and then we attempt to solve them through our mind. But if you solve it in your body, then you might get a downloaded intuitive hit that gives you the solution. So sometimes if you're stuck, try to find misalignment in some other aspect of your reality and then see if some awareness comes to you
Yeah.
to like solve a different part.
Totally. I feel like that this relates a lot to relationships too. And
Yeah, definitely.
having ended the last relationship I was in and being back in the dating field, that the idea of settling and the idea of compromise are both part of this conversation about alignment too. It's like the things
Mm-hmm.
that you are willing to settle for is almost like where you're willing to just be with a misalignment for a period of time until that misalignment is uncomfortable enough that you're like, you know what, I'm not settling or compromising for that anymore. And I love this example. A friend of mine just fell in love with someone fucking awesome for her. And I remember the last years of us talking about her dating life. And it was like, you know what? That doesn't work for me. I'm not going to choose to be with someone. I'd rather be happy alone than be with someone who isn't quite right for me or who
Yeah.
doesn't treat me with that kind of respect or who's willing to be that kind of whatever with me when what I need is something greater than that. And by not settling, you're allowing yourself the alignment that can attract something better to you, like you. I'm willing
Mm-hmm.
to lose this job. I'm not sure if I'm coming back because right now I don't feel that alignment and I'm not settling for that misalignment anymore. And
Yeah.
boom, better opportunity, feels way more aligned, same company, better gig.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens when we choose to not settle or to not compromise our alignment for anything. That the
Right.
universe goes, oh, okay, we've got a new set point, we've got a new standard. This is what's being, you know, asked for or open to be received. And that's what we're going to meet now. So, yeah, I think there's something about that settling feeling or that compromise, like, oh, it's so like valuable to compromise, to meet, you know, halfway, to give up the alignment you truly want so that you can have that sense of resolution, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's not always in your best interest, I don't think.
Yeah. I think of like of compromise or settling as like holding yourself in misalignment
Yeah.
and like
And
a-
justifying it as it
and
being like a
justifying
holier than thou choice. Yeah.
it. Right. Yeah. There's all these reasons to like all this pressure you have to put on it to keep it in place. Whereas alignment at its nature is literally the lining up of things. Like synchronicity is also a form of alignment and it just flows. It's like there is no need to push. I want to make a bold assertion. As a person who spends a lot of time professionally thinking about motivation, I actually think motivation doesn't exist. I think it's a fake term that we use to try to override misalignment. I
Ah.
need to get motivated in order to do blank, right?
Mm.
What you really mean is I'm out of alignment and I need to find a way to force myself through it.
That's like the definition of yeah,
Misalignment, right?
of motivation.
That's
Yeah.
motivation to overcome this or that thing. And we accept that, like, oh, well, the collective story is, well, there's certain things that no one wants to do. So you have to get motivated to do it. My belief is that you can find alignment for the things that are for you in your life. You can find a way to be aligned to do something, or you can find the things that are aligned with you. And so the question I ask myself, because it's easy to take what we're saying and try to, like, okay, well, how am I going to find all these things that are aligned for me, like the right career and the this and the that? I find that it's easier to get more granular and just in any moment where you're feeling misalignment, just ask yourself, what does alignment look like for me in this moment?
Yeah.
Maybe
And
it's the
get a
slight
hit.
change in maybe it's
Yeah.
a change in posture, maybe it's a different way of thinking about something, maybe it's slowing down how fast you're typing. Who knows?
Yeah.
You
It
won't know
might be
till you ask
getting
the
really
question.
vulnerably honest with what you actually need that you haven't been willing to give or ask for, give yourself
Yeah,
or ask for. Yeah.
yeah,
Like in your professional environment, in your partnership, in your relationship with your body. I mean, what is it
right,
that's missing or that you need more of or that needs to fucking change now so that that alignment can be there? Yeah, in Peace with Money, my program about money mindset, we talk about the pendulum swing of money.
yeah,
Like, oh wow, so much came in, and you go swing to the happy joy
right,
appreciation, and then oh no, I don't have enough to pay for that, and you swing to the like joy, the dread, fear, like I'm stuck, I'm gonna die kind of feeling.
yeah,
And that the pendulum is swinging, whether money's coming in or not coming in, it's on this swinging thing. And when we get to a place of peace with money, it is the pendulum not swinging anymore, where it doesn't matter if money's coming in or if money needs to go out or if there's
mhm,
enough or not enough in this moment, that you choose to be in this place of peace and no
mhm,
longer emotionally swinging about it. And
mhm,
that is literally what we're talking about here with alignment. When we're in that
mhm,
place of alignment, when we're in our peace with our lives, any aspect of our lives, we come into that grounded, like 0 point moment.
yeah,
That's how new stuff can channel in, that's how money can flow, that's how ideas and inspiration can get to us. So it's like this, our emotions kind of are that pendulum swing guidance system of where are you feeling this heightened like dread or fear or resistance, and what do you need in this moment to get out of that swing? It could be a
mhm,
tool, it could be a mentor, it could be simply asking yourself questions, but that place of alignment literally just comes first from being aware of it, and second from being willing to like honestly address the fact
yeah,
that this thing is not actually working for me anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
I really loved also to add to that something you said in your post on alignment, which was that it's a moving target. And so what is aligned for me now may not be tomorrow
Right.
or Wednesday or, or a week from now or a year from now. So it's a constantly evolving process. So it's not like, oh, I'm aligned, I'm good. It's like,
Forever. It's like, no,
yeah,
you're
on this one
changing every
subject.
day.
Yeah, you're changing, your relationship to everything's changing, other things are changing. It's a thing to check in with. And it's not like you have to get it perfect. There's like degrees of alignment where it's still fine to do this thing. Sometimes it requires patience, trust, those things. If there's a lot of misalignment, it's possible you can just slightly adjust it, maybe the way you're thinking about it to get back into alignment. There's lots of tools, but it's just helpful to have this like higher level framework because I think that especially now as people are starting to think about how are they going to quote better themselves for the next year, it's really important to, in my opinion, prioritize alignment as one of the highest things because that takes care of a lot of the other things that you think you need or want in your life. Because it's like you said earlier, like the more you trust it, it doesn't steer you wrong, even if it doesn't seem logically right in the moment.
Yeah. Like leaving a job that seems like a really good gig or leaving a partner that loves you pretty well, good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not quite good enough, obviously. Cool. Well, we are reaching the end of an episode. So here we just want to share our game plan real quick. So we were not honoring our alignment. and we were busting butts with our two crazy, very busy life schedules to try and produce an episode every single week. And we did that for over a year. And while we love the content that we created, we are just fortunately and unfortunately, diehard committed to this alignment thing. So we're not promising we're going to have a weekly episode. We are going to record a few here and there when we feel inspired, and they're going to come out when they come out. And we're hoping to have, a few episodes every month, maybe sometimes an episode every week, but we're going to trust our own process in that. And we hope that you will meet us in that process and hopefully, gobble up any episodes we put out as they come out. But as always, we'd really love to hear from you too. We would really love you to be a part of this conversation. And we want to know, what are you thinking about? What are you coming to in your life? What lessons are you learning right now? What challenges are you facing right now that you're like, what the fuck? We want to have conversations with you and about what you're thinking about too. So revealthegameoflife@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. And yeah, anything you want to say about that, Chris?
Yeah, look forward to the things that this will bring up for people. This is ongoing. Like much of what we're doing this is broadcasting expansion. And so if you listen to this and internalize it, it's likely that things will start coming up in your life where the misalignment awareness will be there. And then, we invite you to connect with us to talk more about that. What like you said, what are you sharing? Yeah, we should talk about where people can find us on the internet.
Yeah, Instagram, Reveal the Game of Life, website, revealthegameoflife.com. If you want to join our Facebook page, Reveal the Game of Life there too. But yeah, we are very excited to be back on the air. We're super grateful that you're listening to this episode. If this felt relevant to you, maybe you know somebody who you love who's just struggling with that sense of misalignment in some aspect of their life, shoot this over to them, forward it to them, let them have a different take on it. I know there's a lot of people in my life that I deeply love that I just kind of want to shake sometimes and be like, yo, choose alignment. We can't save anyone but ourselves. But when you do choose alignment in your life, it is an invitation to everyone who gets to witness you that that is a choice, that is a possibility, that we don't have to settle. We don't have to continue on with the off kilter way of being. We get to choose what actually works for us this lifetime. So,
and the world needs you to do that, because when you align yourself, you naturally align with reality and the collective evolution that I mentioned before, where you will unlock your gifts and be able to share them and express them in a way that is much more valuable than whatever you think you can contribute to the world.
Yeah.
So
totally.
that's the advantage of alignment, I would say. One of the many.
One of the many, yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So thanks for listening. As always, take what works for you, leave the rest, and we'll catch you on another episode soon of Reveal the Game of Life. And thanks so much.
Season 2.
Yeah, season 2. Welcome back.
Woo! The
Bye.